You're the intro person.
I'm
You're the professional intro person.
Episode 2.
Episode 2.
Reliving our Europe adventures.
Yep. This time we're talking about Vienna instead. Last time we talked about Florence and Tuscany, and then we left off at the end of that trip. That's when we switched to going to Vienna and Austria.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to tell how we got there?
Yeah, so I think we talked a little bit about, well, we didn't talk about our train ride, but, and he could say better about the European travel, because he did his study abroad in the summer, but the train system is really, really good there.
Yeah, it's 100 times better than anything. I mean, we don't have anything comparable in the States that makes it as easy. It's basically the interstate highway, but a train where you don't have to drive and you just hop on and ride all the way between different countries, which is really nice. So.
Yeah. So we hopped on an overnight train at like 9 p.m. in Florence. We're in a little 6-person train car. There was 3 people on the other side of us, 3 women from Vienna, I think, and then the 2 of us on one side. In this little car for like 9 or 10 or 12 hours, I don't know, when we woke up in Vienna. Yeah. So it actually was not, the train itself was not nearly as uncomfortable as I expected it to be. I think it would have been more uncomfortable if it was completely full. There was 6 of us in there, but there was really just 5 of us in a 6-person car, so we had room to spread out, which was nice.
Yeah, I don't think we said that this was an overnight train, and the reason we took the overnight train is because we didn't want to waste any time, any days in either Florence or in Vienna, so we took overnight. But the daytime train is supposed to be one of the prettiest trains in the world because it goes right through the Italian Dolomites, or the Italian Alps, which are called the Dolomites. So yeah, we took that overnight train and it was fine. It wasn't like super uncomfortable. But we woke up in Vienna, and then I studied abroad in Vienna, so I knew I wanted to take her around to all the places that I knew before. So we started out, and I guess we went straight to the place I stayed at for study abroad to drop our stuff off because we knew some of the people there. Since it was early, it was still early in the morning. And
they let us drop our bags off, and just before we could get into our Airbnb. So it was really cool for me to get to see, like, this is where he spent a whole summer and where he like grew to love Vienna and grew to love traveling. So it was fun. There was nobody there. There were some girls there that weren't related to the same school, so we didn't really talk to anybody, but it was fun to like stop by and see. Like, I think we went up to your old room and just took a picture outside of your door, or you did, that we sent to your family, which was fun. But then we kind of hit the ground running, because we only had, including that day we got there in the morning, we had 3 full days before we woke up and left. So only regret of the entire trip is I wish we would have had an extra day in Vienna, because I wish we would have had an extra week, but like, we'll go back eventually, just because I feel like there was so much to see and so much to experience, and a totally different vibe though than Florence. Like, we talk about it all the time, like which one people will ask us which one we liked better, Florence or Vienna, and they're just not comparable. They're so different, and there's things that I absolutely loved about each of them that I couldn't choose. You know, like, I don't know how we would choose between the two, for me at least. And I think a lot of it's because Vienna's, and this is why he knew he wanted to take me here, but Vienna's like the city of music, and they're really into like coffee culture and like 2 things I love. So like, I was already really excited about it, and it's one of those places that I think because of the atmosphere, it was just easier to, in a lot of ways, wander around and find things to do and find ways to enjoy ourselves. Granted, we still had things scheduled, which we'll kind of go over, but it was definitely more of a laid back leg of the trip, I would say.
Vienna is more, Vienna, if you compare it to Florence, like you said, they're not really comparable because they're not the same at all, but Vienna is essentially like, it has both history, and it's both historical and it's modern. It's like a lot of people actually live there and are working there and have families there. But whereas in Florence, most of the workers are in the tourist business rather than business itself. So Vienna is a city that I feel like is very livable in Europe as compared to most of the Italian cities. And actually, I believe that Vienna has been the voted most livable city like the last several years in a row. So it isn't just me that feels that way. It's whoever votes on these random things.
A lot of people obviously agree with that. But yeah, because of that, it was really cool. And we were like, when we were there, I was like, I could totally see us living here for a couple of years. I mean, so maybe you never know in the future. We'll see. But I guess we can kind of go.
When we got there, we dropped our stuff off, and then we got tickets for the subway, the U-Bahn, which is the best underground transport that I've ever used, which I haven't used a ton, but I like it better than like Rome's by a lot, or a little bit better than London's.
And really easy to get the tickets.
Super easy.
And we didn't buy them in advance. We just bought them when we got there.
Yep.
They're not going to run out, so you'll be fine.
Yeah. Super easy to get tickets. It's really laid back. They don't even really check your tickets. They do random checks, and if you get caught, then you owe a lot of money. So it's worth it to just pay $4 or I guess it's a little more. It's probably like $15 to get your 3-day pass and call it good. But yeah, they never checked us once. I don't think we didn't have anyone ever come ask us for a ticket. And then it's super user friendly to get around. Like you have your similar to London, you have your different lines like colored, and you know where you want to go and what you want to see. Then you can get around really easily, and it's really fast. So super useful. We first went from I guess I don't know where exactly, like Rosserlanda was where we stayed, or the stop we stayed, and we went from there to Schwedenplatz, which is where my favorite quick food, fast food from study abroad is Happy Noodles. So this is like this Asian place.
Totally not Viennese at all.
Yeah, not Viennese at all. The little Asian noodle place, chicken and noodles, and yeah, I think it's super popular because it's still around years and years later.
Yeah. I always think it's so funny that the first thing he did, or the thing that he liked the most, food that he liked the most, really was just this little Asian stand in Vienna. He loves Asian food, so I'm not surprised. But also, I think for you, college student with no money, like...
Yeah, it was $2.
Very inexpensive food. But I actually really liked it. Like, it wasn't like bad food. It was just like super simple street food, but it was really fun. That was the very first thing we did, and I think...
I like to think I made Happy Noodles popular. It's very popular now. It's got a long line. It did not have a long line when I was there, but I told everyone about it, so they all went to it, I bet.
Funny enough, I think this was before we went to Vienna. We watched a lot of like YouTube videos on Vienna and Italy before we went on our trip, and there was a walking tour of Vienna, and it was just this guy, like a silent video of this guy walking around, and Keaton immediately recognized Happy Noodles when it came on, like it was in the corner. And of the whole entire city of Vienna, he was able to like point out this specific Asian restaurant that he was so excited about. So of course we had to go, and it was very good. Did we go twice?
Good. I went twice. Yeah.
But so yeah, first stop was going to where he stayed at for study abroad and his favorite restaurant from study abroad. So already starting out great. It was a little bit rainy and a little bit chilly while we were there, which was a little unseasonable.
We were there in September. Like mid-September, and we came from Florence, so it was like going from hot to like 50s, so it was like it felt a lot colder than 85, so
and even the locals too had said like this is pretty unseasonable for us to get this chilly or this rainy this soon in the year or soon in the winter, so we kind of hit it like at a weird couple of days, so we really tried to. We kind of had to be a little bit sporadic in what we did so that we could hit things while the weather was good if we needed to. So that's why we ended up doing what we're about to talk about on this day, because it was the longest break of potential rain that we had, and ended up really being the biggest break of rain we ever had. So it was a great thing we went. But I'll let you talk about it.
Yeah. So the like number one tourist thing to do in Vienna is to go to the Schönbrunn Palace, which is like the Habsburg summer home. I think Maria Theresa's summer home, I don't know for sure, but one of the Habsburgs' summer home, which is like a massive palace where at least hundreds of people were living in, like hundreds of workers were living in at a time.
Like thousands, I think.
It was thousands.
I wish I remembered how, because they told us on the tour and I forgot.
I want to say it was 5,000, but
it was insane.
That sounds crazy to me. Yeah, we went there first because that was the only time we were going to get a break in the rain in the 3 days. So
and because a lot of the palace, there's the indoor tours and stuff that we did, but they have beautiful grounds like that, the outside on the front, and then they have this huge expansive gardens in the back. And we actually got to spend probably like an hour walking around back there, which again was what we were trying to hit before it rained. And it was actually off and on when we got there, so we had to like kind of trade off in and out. But then we finally got a long enough break to go outside, and like really pretty, very like manicured lawns, and it was just really cool. Like I don't know how to explain it.
I think there's some of the
nice,
most
you know,
famous gardens in the world. It's like a massive palace garden, and when you compare it to the Boboli Gardens, there's a different style where it's more, I don't know, pristine. It's more regal feeling in the Schönbrunn Palace Gardens. So it was really nice, and you like walk up this big hill, and you get to overlook the city, which is very cool. And I actually think that my personal opinion on Schönbrunn Palace is it's very cool, very nice to go to. But the best part of it is to go to the gardens in the back. So we did go inside and walk around, and do the tour, which is nice. I think the best part of that tour is the ballroom. But I really think that if you were like really low on time, then just doing the gardens is the best part.
Yeah, so that was kind of that got us through probably mid-afternoon doing that.
And at that point, I guess we can come back and we could take our luggage out of the original place and go to our Airbnb, right?
Yeah, I think we did that. I did remember we actually did hit a coffee shop before we went to the Schönbrunn Palace. Because our goal, we had this whole list. So the coffee side, I have been very into coffee for like 4 or 5 years now. I don't know. I'm not an expert by any means, but I just love like the atmosphere behind the coffee shop, and like the intentionality of like just getting to sit down and have a conversation. And they really, really value that over there. But they also have these really, really historic coffee shops that have been around since like the 1800s. And so that was one of the things I did a lot of my research on before we went, was like a list of coffee shops that we should go to. And I had like 15 on my list, so we obviously did not hit 15 coffee shops in 3 days. But our goal was to hit at least 2 a day on like our longer days. So I think we ended up hitting 5 or 6 coffee shops total, which is pretty good for 3 days. But so we did that and had like our first coffee, and like they're known for like their strudel at that place. So we kind of streusel, sorry.
Yeah.
But I think that's the only coffee shop we did that day. But that kind of started off the leg of our trip really well. It was fun. After the Schönbrunn Palace,
got our luggage.
Yes.
Got to our Airbnb, right?
Really cool Airbnb. I mean, nothing like, I don't know how to, it was again, just kind of like Vienna being a more livable city. It was an Airbnb I could actually see myself like owning and living in. But really nice view from like we were on the top floor of this like apartment complex, I guess is what I don't know if that's what they call them over there, but it's kind of on like a slanted rooftop. So we had this window that opened up to the city, and it was like a super cool view. I think we didn't have much downtime, because I think that's the night that we did dinner, and then
we got to get ready. We got to be ready for a fancy date.
Yes,
fancy.
This was our fancy night that we actually did have planned before we came. Ironically, I think we actually went to an Italian restaurant that night. So we
did,
just come from Italy, and we were like, we still want Italian food. But
the food, when you compare German / Vienna or Viennese cuisine, Austrian cuisine versus the Italian cuisine, Italian destroys them, but it's still very good to get the German cuisine. I guess it's German cuisine essentially.
But we're still only like, it was like it's 9 hours from Italy. It's still great Italian food, you know.
Yeah.
But so I think we ended up going to an Italian restaurant that night. Just again, it was kind of a fancy one, and it was like a nice. We were still kind of reminiscing on Italy, because it was kind of our closeout and our transition phase still of our trip. So that was really fun. Similar to Italy, really friendly over there. They brought us out like free alcohol and like maybe a free appetizer, I don't remember, but just I think they really, in a lot of ways, surprisingly, I think they really liked us, like us being tourists. Like I think they could tell how happy we were to be there. I don't know. That's how I felt.
I think they see us and they think we're like young influencers when we take videos. And then they come and give us free stuff. That's what I think. But people are friendlier over there. They're definitely
very friendly. I will say that too. Yeah, and it's a lot more locals roaming around. I mean, not that there wasn't in Italy, but like just the places we were going, especially with it being just more of a like down to earth culture and coffee shop culture. Like we'll get to this in a little bit too, but like real people that live there go to these coffee shops and like do the things that we were doing, apart from some of the touristy things like the Schönberg Palace, because they probably see that or just have that more readily available. But like we were interacting with locals all the time, and it was really cool. So, which we'll talk about that in a bit. But so that night we did dinner, and then we did probably what was like, not probably, but definitely was. Not that I can pick things that were my favorite, because it was like there were so many different things we did, but like the top 3 of my trip, this was 100% in it, and it might have been my number 1. I don't know, but
you said number 1 at the time. I think it was probably number 1.
I think it's number 1 for me. But City of Music and City of Coffee. So we went to a quartet concert. In which church was it?
This was in St. Peter's Church, not the famous Roman St. Peter's, or not the Vatican City St. Peter's, but St. Peter's in Vienna, which is smaller, but just like
beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful, and still huge. Like he says it's smaller, but like when you go inside, it's massive. And we paid for the cheaper tickets, and we were sitting in the back, and like just like massive room. Like the people, I mean, everyone looked so small, but because of the way that the church was built, we could hear the concert perfectly. And I grew up playing in orchestra. I haven't played in like 10 years, but I just have like such a love for music that like that was something that I was looking forward to so much. And it was still a big concert. Like there was a lot of people there, but I feel like it was definitely a very authentic experience.
Yeah.
And I actually cried when we were there, because it was so beautiful. And I like the quartet was the way to go. I mean, I'm sure they have bigger orchestra styles, but like it was just 4 people playing in this beautiful church, and it was like literally the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. We have recordings on our phone. We weren't supposed to take recordings, but I just have it where I'm not videoing anyone, but it's just sitting on my lap, and I still listen to it, and I get goosebumps every time.
Yeah,
so if you're into music, even if you're not, I think you enjoyed it.
I loved it. I thought it was amazing. I mean, Vienna, there's no other city in the world. I don't think there's a city in the world where you can go and there's 15 concerts you get to choose from somewhere in the city to go to each night. And we chose I think is the absolute best one you could possibly choose, and that was lucky. But it was, and I only chose it because I knew St. Peter's Church was super nice, and I was like, this is such a pretty, it's like golden and really ornate inside. Like, this is such a pretty church. This will be really nice to go to. And it was a very good choice. I would highly suggest going to any kind of concert in St. Peter's Church, especially the quartet. And it was, what did they do? Tchaikovsky? Vivaldi.
That was another reason we chose it. Is, again, I'm not an expert. It's been 10 years since I played, but I also looked through like the composers that they were going to be like highlighting, and Vivaldi was one of them. It was kind of a mix of some of that style. So, and I know I liked him. Who doesn't like Vivaldi? So between that and the location being beautiful and the orchestra and just the performers being incredible, like the musicians, yeah, it was the best part. It was my top thing that we did on our entire trip, probably.
Yep, it was awesome, and the whole night was really, really nice, because it was like we did the dinner, but then we had this little break between dinner and the concert that we forgot to mention, where you're just walking outside, and we live in Oklahoma City, so it's not like, I mean, it's nice, and we lived in downtown Oklahoma City. It was really nice. We really liked it, but there's nothing like the big cities, how alive they are, even on a weeknight, like Vienna is. And I mean, it was just like people were outside doing stuff, and it was 9 o'clock at night. There was like, a lady like had big bubbles she was making, and all these kids were playing just in the middle of the town square. And Vienna's super walkable, so there's not cars to worry about, which is really nice. And so we did the concert, and we came out, and it was still going on. This all the people, there was less people at this time, but they were still doing the bubbles, and kids were still out there, and tons of people were out. They had wine and drinks on the side. So I think we went and stopped at got a glass of wine at some smaller
because we were like, I was like, I don't want this night to be over. Like, literally the best moment of my life just happened. We can't just go to bed now. Like, I have to think about it or do something. So but yeah, that was a good point. I was thinking that around the same time that you said it, was that I definitely wanted to highlight like how alive the city felt. And just, we'll get to this too, but just the architecture is so beautiful. And even at night, like when you can't see all of like the detail and everything, like yeah, just people are out, everyone's happy, no cars, but it's just tons of people walking in these big city squares. And I'm sure it was like that around all of Vienna. We were in one little part of it for that moment, but like it just kind of felt like it was 8 o'clock, but it was really like 10 or like 11, and everyone was just having a good time. And it was just so cool to see everyone being so happy. Again, I have a feeling a lot of those people were local people too. I mean,
so it felt incredibly safe too.
I felt
who
safe.
Feels safe at 11 o'clock at night in the middle of a big city?
It was the weirdest thing. I didn't even think about that.
I wouldn't want to be outside in the middle, walking around in the middle of a big city normally, and I felt like this is like
it was just
in the daylight.
Yeah, like it wasn't like all the people that were out were like out because they were partying and like doing wild things. It was just their culture. They were just spending time with each other. I don't know. It was really, really cool. But yeah, that is a great point to make. Like I never felt unsafe really on our entire time in Vienna. Even in the subway felt really safe to me.
Yeah.
Of course, we're always aware when you're traveling, but be aware regardless. But yeah, so that was a jam-packed day with getting in the morning and then doing all of those things, but I wouldn't have changed that at all. So that was kind of like
that was our most busy day.
It was
like
definitely our busiest day where we had things planned.
Yeah.
We actually did tickets in advance for things, so that was definitely how that went. But I don't really think anything else that night. We went to bed, and then we kind of started our routine for the next 2 days, which was hit a coffee shop in the morning and a coffee shop in the afternoon to get something off my list from coffee shop list.
Yeah, some kind of caffeine in the body and just hang out. And the Vienna coffee culture is all about like you just sit, you read, you talk to people, you hang out, and that's how that's what made the coffee houses so famous. It's actually, we went to Café Central first, right, that day. So Café Central is like the most famous coffee shop in Vienna. And then the reason it's so famous, well, one, is because really, really nice and ornate and huge inside. It's near the Vienna city square, and it's actually where some extremely famous people, or infamous people, also used to frequent, and that's where like politics developed out of these people having conversations. So
like who all was there?
I mean, Hitler was one person
that was the bad person.
I mean, a lot of the people were bad.
That's not really the advertised.
Yeah, they don't talk about Hitler being there, but he would go there. No, Socrates is way older. Greek Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud is what you're thinking.
But there was another one.
Lenin, I think I used to go there all the time.
Bad people. There's a lot of good people.
Because it's mostly bad people, but the point is that this was like where people would argue about politics, and then from there, they'd end up going on and destroying the world, basically.
But the idea was just that there's these incredibly intelligent people that would like come to this place.
Let me see. I mean, Einstein. I believe Einstein used to go every now and then as well. Although Einstein was mostly living in Switzerland and Germany at the time, but I think he would just stop by every now and then. But Sigmund Freud was always the big one, because Freud was actually based in Vienna, and a lot of his ideas we make fun of nowadays, but there's some very good things that he came up with. Like he's essentially the first person to do like a behavioral therapy. I'm pretty sure, like psychoanalysis.
Okay, let's see. I know there was more. These names all look so unfamiliar to me.
Trotsky was another one, so another badish guy.
Oh, he's bad.
Alfred Adler, I think he's a psychologist. And essentially, even Stalin used to go there as well. Holy crap. Yeah, this place had all the famous...
Not Socrates, sorry.
You're about...
I'm tired.
Yeah, you're like 1,000...
Okay.
Almost 2,000 years early. Or late. You're thinking of Sigmund Freud, I think.
Yeah, I was. But anyways, really, really cool to be in a place where like all these really famous people were. And like you were saying, like it's meant just to sit down and visit and have conversation and like intellectual style. And you were like people reading. There was in every coffee shop we went to, or at least a lot of them that I noticed, and even Café Central, they just have newspapers. Like, I don't know if they're like current.
They're like old, I think.
They're old, but like it's common for people to grab a newspaper and read through these newspapers. And it was almost like a coat rack, but instead of coats, it was for newspapers. So
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. That was multiple places I saw that, or that there would be like a little table you can go pick up a newspaper. But so it was just, that was a good way to start our day. Again, food average, coffee great, atmosphere great.
Yeah.
Good way to start the day.
Yep.
I don't know what we did after that.
I think we kind of just walked around after that because it's really nice.
Yeah.
And we just kind of looked at the architecture. I don't remember what.
I know at one point we did the Opera House. That might have been that day.
We did it that day. I'm pretty
Okay.
sure. I guess it would have been soon after because we were kind of near it over there. So let's just say we did it then.
Sounds good.
I think we just wandered around. We really spent a lot of time like
just
kind of like in Florence, just walking and exploring and hoping we run into something cool. And I think we had tickets to the Opera House actually, so we went over there.
Mm-hmm. Again, orchestra nerd over here, so it was cool to see. Again, that was their opera house is more like actual operas, so not something I can say I have a lot of experience with. We didn't go to a show. We thought about it, but they were like 5 hours long.
Yeah.
And again, not really like our particular artistic style, but still they're known for that. So if that's your thing, like totally worth it if you're there.
Yeah.
And even worth it just a tour. It was really cool.
I mean, it's definitely one of the most famous opera houses.
Oh
in the
yeah,
world, if not the most famous.
It is definitely so. But yeah, I really just wandered around a lot. But like the architecture was so nice, and it was just fun to explore. I think we went to different parts of the city. I think we took the subway to the university.
Oh yeah, I was hoping to get my sweatshirt. I had a sweatshirt from the University of Vienna from when I studied abroad. It's the best sweatshirt ever, my favorite sweatshirt, and then I lost it on our honeymoon years later, and I've been wanting a new one, and went to the university, and they were closed.
Sad.
So no sweatshirts still.
Very sad, but it's okay. It was so cool to get out and see new areas. I know we had another coffee shop that afternoon too. Was that Cafe de Glace?
I think so.
Okay, so this is probably like one of my favorite unplanned interactions that happened. Not that we had a lot, but I know we talked in our first video about just running into different tourists and different locals that we got to know really well. I mean, we had really good conversations with these people while we were there. That extended into Vienna as well, like just very friendly people. So we were at Cafe de Glace. I feel like I'm missing something else we did that day, but I'll think about it. Anyways, we went to Cafe de Glace. It was kind of like our pre-dinner, like, just drink spot to just kill some time, but also
hit another coffee shop. That was always the goal. Hit as many as we can.
Granted, I have to admit, I think we got wine at this one because it was like 4 or 5 p.m.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, but it was just the vibe that day. But still the atmosphere again. So, like, halfway into us having our coffee, we were in this corner booth. Like, there's a booth here, the corner, and there was another booth right here. And there was 2, just like older adult men, not older, just 30s, 40s, 50s, I don't know.
Mid-30s or early 40s.
But yeah, and they were like, hey, and this waiter kept coming by, and it was very evident that the waiter was friends with these 2 guys, or knew them, they knew each other, or had some kind of, like, recollection of one another. And at one point, they were like, hey, do you guys mind taking a photo of us? And we're like, oh yeah, of course. We couldn't hear, when they were talking, just the 3 of them, we couldn't understand them, they were speaking in German. But so we had no idea what their relation was. I still don't really 100% know, but so we took their picture. We started talking to these guys. It was definitely not one of those like take our picture, leave us alone. Like it just felt like a very natural like flow into this brief conversation that we had. And we were talking to them. We're like, hey, like, what do you guys do? They asked us what we did. We told them we're from Oklahoma. We're on vacation.
And everyone who asks you where you're from and you say Oklahoma, they don't know little.
They don't know. So I guess
where Oklahoma is. What is Oklahoma?
Yeah, we'll tell that story too. But we're like, what do you guys do? Like, where are you from? And they're like, well, we've lived here for like X amount of years. One of them was doing film, and he had been there for I think a shorter amount of time, maybe still like 5 or 10 years, I'm pretty sure. And the other one, he was like, oh, I do music. Did he say he composed? I don't know. He just said like, I think he's like, I compose, I do music. And again, super just
He was a
what you would
conductor. Who
expect
said that?
from Vienna. Like, it's a very artistic city, like music, filmmaking, and we're like, wow, that's really cool. Like, we kind of passed. Like, we talked for a few minutes, really nice interaction, like super sweet. And then when we were leaving, we were like, oh, we didn't get your name. Like, what's your name? And so his friend had left, right?
Yeah.
And so we were just talking to the last guy, and he was like, oh, it's Pablo Boggiano, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, oh, that's really cool. Like, we'll have to like look you up, just because he said he did music, and we didn't really think too much of it. Well, we looked him up later, and it turns out he's like a semi-famous conductor, like music conductor in the orchestras around Vienna, which was like kind of wild. Like, I mean, he had a few thousand followers on Instagram, but Instagram also, I don't feel like is the market for conductors. You know what I mean? But like, he actually like performs in Vienna. Like, and he, by the way, I didn't mention, he's from Argentina. I remember that. I don't know why I feel like that's important to note, but so it's cool to get to know like his history, but then also realize like we just kind of met someone semi-famous, and that just goes more to the point that we were talking about earlier. Is it just like normal, regulars? Like, there's locals that come to these places, and so it's just a really
and they talk to you. That's the thing.
Yeah,
people talk
like,
to you. Doesn't
actually,
matter who you are, even if you're not from there, and they seem to care to meet you. And that's a little bit more common in Vienna than it was in Florence, I think. Tuscany was better about that, but Florence wasn't so good.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Vienna, people are super friendly. I mean, it's that coffee house culture. It's just like, go talk to someone and meet them and hang out with them, have a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really think you get that very often in the U.S. So
I don't think so either. So that was just really one of my favorite interactions, and just a cool, like,
we still follow him on Instagram.
we do. He likes our. Oh, that's a funny story. Speaking of Ben not
You don't have to tell that part.
Oklahoma, you don't want to say it?
No.
Okay. Why?
I don't know. I don't know. It doesn't matter, I guess.
Well, whatever. You're being weird about it, but just a cool interaction. But I don't know. I think that night after the coffee house, I think we ended up doing like a traditional Viennese dinner.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the name of the restaurant, but they're like or I guess like you said, it's German food. So we had German for dinner, like very authentic. Oh, yeah. That was another cool interaction. So this was the restaurant we went to.
Oh yeah.
We saw it. It was across the street from the Italian place we went, and I remember seeing it, and it was really busy. And I was like, we should probably go there because if there's a lot of people, it's probably good, probably local. I don't know. So we got there that night, and we're like, oh, just like two of us. And they're like, do you mind if we seat you with somebody else? And there was this older woman there, local lady, probably in her 60s, didn't speak a lot of English, and they were like, we're super busy, do you guys mind if we just put the three of you at a table together? And we were like, sure. We don't mind. It seemed like a normal thing the way they were asking.
Yeah.
So we sat with this lady. It was a lot harder to understand her than some of the other people we interacted with, but and she understood enough English to where we could talk a little bit, but it was also loud in there. But just like sitting with a stranger.
I had a full meal with a stranger at a restaurant, a popular restaurant.
The waitress said that she came in every single week, and she always ordered the same thing, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So she was a regular for sure, but it was just like a cool, just the fact that that's just common. I don't know
how many restaurants I've never been.
You know.
Yeah, I've never been seated with a random stranger at a restaurant in the U.S. So another thing that
so
was interesting and nice.
Yeah. So that was day 2.
Yep.
I know. Again, we're probably missing some little things we did here and there because we
got some gelato. We hung out in the bubble area again.
Yeah, we did some shopping. They had some like cool shops around, and when we had to take some shelter from the rain, we just kind of popped into a coffee shop or did something like that. But that's kind of the vibe for
day 2. Yeah, there's a lot of just hanging out, and that's kind of the same with day 3. So
coffee shop in the morning.
Day 3, coffee shop in the morning. Which one?
I think that was Cafe Sparrow. I don't have any fun history on that one right now. Sorry. I'm sure there's a lot of history. Yeah. It's again one of those. It's been open at least 100 years, over 100 years I think. But just another cool local place. I know at one point that day. We did. Was it the Sisi Museum?
Sisi Museum, yeah. Pretty early we did that. I'm pretty sure.
Pretty what?
We did it pretty early.
Yeah, and that was at the Habsburgs too.
Yeah, Habsburgs, one of the Habsburgs.
So we did that. That was kind of a sporadic, like spur of the moment things. We didn't have tickets for that in advance, but we had some time. We were walking right by it. It was good. I remember very specific parts of it, but as a whole, I feel like I can't speak to like what the more broad version of it was.
Yeah, we didn't do the whole thing.
That's what it was.
We also didn't do the whole thing.
There was different like.
We did the
parts.
highlights tour, which is I would say do the highlights tour instead of the whole thing. But
Yeah,
I don't know because there's a lot, and even the highlights were kind of a lot. But what was that one funny story about the green plates?
Yeah, like one of the parts of the tour we did was like all about their utensils and like kitchenware, and they had like this just spoke to how many people they had and their servants and all that stuff, like thousands and thousands and thousands of dishes and hundreds of sets of dishes and utensils.
China,
wild. Like that was it was cool, but I was also this is a lot of silverware. But we kind of did the high level stuff, and then we stopped at some cool ones. I had some audio tours, and we were listening to the audio tour for like one set in particular. I don't know. They had these like pretty green plates that I actually really liked. I thought they were kind of cool, and I don't remember how it said it in the story, but basically these plates were given. I'm talking a lot. You want to say the story?
Well, I don't know the story very well. I don't know because I'll watch the war completely. But I
think it was after the War of Austrian Succession. I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong.
Which I don't know much about that.
I looked it up right before this to refresh my memory. But basically the War of Austrian Succession, and these plates were a gift after the war to the Habsburgs, basically saying, so did I say France? I did, right?
Yeah, France. It was France.
So France gave the Habsburgs this set of plates, and it was basically like, sorry we killed a bunch of your people, please accept these plates as a gift. And it was just like the funniest thing. Like I'm sure that was normal back then, but I was like, how ironic that it's just like
plates for lives.
Like, sorry we hurt all your friends and stuff, but
imagine fighting for your country and then getting your life traded for some fine china.
Yeah. It was just the casualness with which that was thrown into the tour was really funny to me.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, again, it was cool. It was a unique thing to see. There were definitely some museums we didn't get to hit either.
It was a good time filler. It was a good time filler because the museum's quarter was closed. I don't know why it was closed because it was closed that.
Do you want to explain what that is?
Museum's quarter is basically like there's several museums. There's the Kunst, which is the famous art museum there. There's a huge natural history museum, so like a science museum, and I think there's one more. They all like face each other, and in the middle they have this big, nice, fancy statue, and so you can get a pass to go to all of them, which is what we did on study abroad. And but yeah, all of them were closed. I don't know why they were closed, so because that would have been something we definitely filled our time with. You can go see some of the more famous paintings in the world at the Kunst. You can also go to the Belvedere, which is not in Museum's Quarter. I think it's a Belvedere. Another palace, but it was also closed. So I don't know what the deal was. Everything was closed.
I think it was like
on that day.
Whatever day we were there, it was the day that they're always closed.
It was like Monday though. It was a weird day to be closed, and
for all the museums.
All the museums. So the CC Museum was open, so we did that, and it was nice. But I think after having gone to all of them, I would have preferred to go to like the Natural History Museum.
Yeah, the next time. We'll have reasons to go back. We have a lot of reasons to go back, obviously, but it was still a good experience.
Yeah, it was still good. Still good.
So, but yeah, I think so. That was kind of earlier in the day, or like kind of got us through lunch, early afternoon. I think that was the day we went back to Happy Noodles because he was like, I need to have it one more time before I leave. So we went back to the Asian place. Definitely hit another coffee shop I don't remember the name of. Oh, the Steffens Dome.
That's what I'm about to get to.
Okay,
yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah.
So that was our.
That was the big thing the day was to go to Steffens Dome, which is St. Stephen's Cathedral, the big cathedral in the middle of Vienna. You can't possibly miss it. Mm-mm. It's probably definitely top 10 most famous cathedral in the world. And it's just incredible. I mean, we went there, the outside, it's a lot different style than the Duomo. It's like the Gothic high tower style. And we went inside, right? We went inside, and inside is really cool. It's like super ornate. The details are amazing. But I think the cooler part was when we went down into the catacombs, and they have the catacombs tour there you can do for like 6 euros, I think it was per person. And so we did that, and that was cool because that is where there's a bunch of mass graves. You could see all the bones from the mass graves where plague victims were buried en masse. And actually, Vienna was one of the latest cities in the world to get hit by the plague. I think it actually didn't make its way to Vienna until the 1700s. So this was not that long ago in history, just a few generations ago. And yeah, we went through that, saw all the bones, which was cool. I guess it was a little bit creepy, but
yeah,
I'd say it was worth it to do that.
Yeah, it was really cool.
And we finished that part. We went back into Stephen's Dome, and then we went and got tickets to go to the top, so you can get an elevator to go up to the top of Stephen's Dome. And yeah, you can talk about it.
Yeah, just a really cool view. I honestly think the view from the bottom, you get the bigger picture better of just how ornate it is. But it was really cool being closer to, and I don't know if we've explained it. You should just look up the Stephen's Dome just to get an idea of what we're looking at. But like these individual tiles that are green, yellow, white, like just really pretty colors. And they formed some, I don't remember what their shape is. It's like a depiction of something.
It's like the war eagle.
Yeah, that's what
I don't think
like.
it's or something like that.
Either way, but we were all the way up there, and it was kind of, again, in between the rain and the storms, but like this beautiful view of basically like a 360 of the cities we're walking around. Of course, with some nice like gates in front of us so we don't fall off and die, because that's like liability. But it was really cool to see that from up close and see how big each individual tile was, but just realizing like, wow, someone had to get up here and like put these all together in the right order and do it without hurting themselves. But really really pretty. And I don't think we ended up going down until we were probably up there for 20 minutes at least, just looking around. But we tried to beat the rain,
beat the storms, yeah,
back down, because there was a lot of people up there and I didn't want to be sitting outside when it was raining. So.
Yeah, because only 2 people could go in the elevator at a time, so
It's kind of slow.
Yeah, a slow elevator, and only a few people could go in.
Yeah.
But one more thing I forgot to mention about Stephen's Dome is that it was actually, a lot of it was destroyed in World War II and bombed. So they rebuilt as well as they could to match how it looked before, and it looks pretty amazing to me. And you can actually see a lot of it is kind of charred. I think from the flames from the bombs, or maybe it's just time and age that's sort of decolored part of it, but it's very cool. You can tell it's very old, and the style is very old. So I'd say that with the Schönbrunn Palace, that's like the must-do for a tourist in Vienna. You're like 2-day tour. You got to hit Schönbrunn Palace. You got to hit Stephen's Dome, and I think everyone does. But after that, we went. We mostly walked around again. We shopped a little bit.
We did have one more church.
We did go to Karlskirche Church, which also is very cool, very underrated church in Vienna. Not done in the neo-Gothic style, but done with the, I don't know what the style with the dome is. Maybe it's just domed.
Dome style.
Big arches and a dome. And
it felt very like holy, I feel like.
Yeah.
It was very cool. Noted, if you go to that one, you need cash.
Yeah.
We did not
have cash. We had to find an ATM, which was a pain.
Yes, but we came back, so it looked like it was worth it, and it was. It was a great time. And that also had randomly an elevator inside, like in the middle of the church, that you could go up and like see it all from the top and see the paintings and the dome a lot closer. That was really cool too.
Yeah, they have a nice fresco. I forgot what they're called.
Frescoes.
Frescoes. Yeah. Fresco at the top with the nice painting. I think of the story, the whole summary of the Bible story, essentially. And yeah, that was. I think the top 3 churches, because I've been to quite a few in Vienna. The top 3 churches, in my opinion, are Stephen's Dome, that smaller St. Peter's, and Karlskirche. And then there is one more that I cannot remember the name of that we didn't go to, that we would have gone. I wish we could have gone to. But it has actually like a paint, not a painting, but a big art piece of the Last Supper, but it's done in like tiny glass. Like it's like made with thousands and thousands and thousands of these like tiles.
That's awesome.
And so it looks normal far away, and then you get up close and you can see it. But that one's cool too. So I think I don't remember what it's called, but next time we go, we'll have to do that.
Yeah.
So Karlskirche, very cool. Also very cool on the outside. Like the whole landscaping around it is very nice. There's a little park in front of it. There's a big fountain. Just a really nice place that locals are all hanging out. Families are hanging out in the park, and you just have really nice, beautiful church right in the background, which is cool. And we don't see anything like that in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, not really. So I think that kind of hits the big churches and the coffee shops and stuff that we did.
Then the last thing we did.
Yeah, one last thing that we did, and this was kind of one of those things on our list. It was like, if we have time, we are going to go. I don't even know if you were fully convinced if you wanted to, because it was cold and rainy. And just, it's like the last day of our trip. So of course we were living like in the moment and doing as much as we could, but like we were tired. We were like kind of packing up, trying to like kind of getting into that like, oh man, we're leaving tomorrow mindset. But I think I actually pushed you to go to this a little bit, because I was like, I want to see this place, and you talked about it all the time. But it's the Prater. And that is like their amusement park, like it's almost like a fair, like is what it feels like. But I guess
a fair that never leaves.
But it's one of those like things that I did not have high expectations for. I mean, he was talking about the Ferris wheel, and he's like, we should ride the Ferris wheel if we go. And so that's really the main reason we went, was to ride the Ferris wheel and see the city. But like I was just kind of expecting it to be like just a Ferris wheel, and like I don't know, like maybe like one place to get food, but it's almost like a full-on theme park, like
full-on carnival in there.
Yeah, like I feel like in the summertime it would be awesome, which is when you were there.
Yep.
For study abroad.
But it's like a pay-as-you-go rides. Like you just go up to the ride and you pay for it and then you get on. And so I wanted to take her on the Ferris wheel so to feel like dating kids again. And it was fun.
It was really fun, really pretty.
It's like a 20-minute Ferris wheel, I think.
And it was not. I think it was like 15, maybe 15, even less a person. I don't know. But it was totally worth it. Like, really cool view of the city. And just a great way to end it. Like, getting to just see everything from above, and kind of cleared up a little bit at that point so we could see a lot of the city. And didn't ride all those rides, but I could see the rest of the theme park, and I was like, man, this place looks awesome. Like, I would totally come back here. So if we ever go and the weather's nicer,
yeah, definitely,
we'll hang out more there. So
definitely,
it was a great way to end. I kind of think, I don't really remember if we did anything like on our last night. I'm sure we went and got a drink somewhere.
Just we went to a little wine bar, but it was closing really soon. It was closing early. It seemed like that day everything was closing early that day. So I mean, it wasn't like it ruined the day or anything. No. It was still really fun, but that was kind of a little bit of a sad part about the day. But we
had one last drink on our trip and kind of reminisce on the whole thing, and we're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe we actually did this. Like, I can't believe we made this happen. And then we also were like, I can't believe we have to get on a plane tomorrow for like 12 hours, so that was fun. But it was a great way to end the trip. We ended up, nothing notable about the next day. We got up early the next day and left, basically. But from those 3 days we spent in Vienna, it reaffirmed to me that, like, I could spend so much more time there and not get tired of it. And it was a place I could totally, again, I don't think realistically it's super likely we would ever live there. But if we ever had the chance to do it, if something came up, then we would 100% consider it. Like, it would be really hard to pass up if something got dropped in our laps, or if we ever thought about going somewhere else, something crazy, like if we just like had a spur of the moment, like we're gonna do this for 2 years, like that's where I would want to go.
Yeah, same.
Because if I loved it that much when it was cold and rainy, like I can't imagine how much I would love it if
it was not warm, or if it was snowing and Christmassy.
Yeah. Which that's another thing, we didn't do this, but like, don't they have really good Christmas markets?
Yeah, really good Christmas markets.
Yeah, so it'd be cool to go in the winter. I would just be absolutely
freezing.
But it was a great time. It was really cool to just get to see get to know the place that you fell in love with traveling, and just for us to be able to experience that together was really, really cool.
Yeah. highly recommend Vienna.
Yes.
Highly recommend doing Europe trips.
Yeah, just do
They're a lot cheaper than you think.
They're a lot cheaper than you think, and there's maybe we could do another video about that. Like, not that we're professionals at the credit card hacking, but just ways that we made it affordable and why we find traveling to be something that is totally worth the money.
Better use of money than a lot of.
And I just don't feel like a lot of people feel that way or understand that. We can get into that later, but it's just even though it was one of those things where you look back and you're like, it's only 2 weeks, is it really worth it? Like, it's 1,000,000% worth it. Like, I would not have traded that trip. I would not have traded that trip for the money that we spent on it for the world, you know? Like,
yeah, I wouldn't even trade it for 2 times the money we spent on it.
Again, we were smart about it. We'll do another video on that. I feel like that'd be a good one to do.
Yeah.
But totally worth it. Just go and do it. Just find some friends, or just go by yourself if you want to. Just be safe. But just go and explore the world, because there's so much to see, and it just made me realize like how much more there is, and like I think it just kind of fed our love for it even more. So, but yeah, that's Vienna. Right. So thanks for listening.
Bye.